From the first gun to the final relay, the Greenwood Rangers found themselves in the fight. A fight for every second, every medal, and every point. And when it all came down to the final events, the pressure was real. The question wasn't whether they could win, it was whether they could rise to the challenge. For the first time this season, the Rangers weren't running away with the meet. They were battling for every point, knowing that any one event, any one moment could be the difference.
Well, we were going into spring break, and we had a lot of guys, a few guys that were pretty important to us. They were missing for, particular, certain things at church camp and just spring break. Family stuff, and so we were short some athletes, so we knew going into this meet that things were going to be tighter for us, and so we had to really count our points and make sure that everybody competed at the highest level possible. And also it's really good to find out how everybody's going to handle the pressure of that situation.
Every time we stepped on the track, we knew we had to deliver. There's no room for mistakes.
As the meet went on, it became clear this was going to come down to the wire, and the final race of the night would decide everything.
From the very jump, we knew every point mattered, and it was pretty intense, fighting for those points, and at the end of the day, we knew it was going to be competitive.
This year we've had really dominant meets, and but this was a real test for us because guys were missing, and frankly, we needed a little bit of a wake-up call so that everybody could step up and play their part and do what we needed to do to win.
Oh, we weren't just competing for ourselves and running for one individual. We were out here competing and having a bond and building a team effort, and well-deserved win around.
Watching from the get-go, you could see they had fire in their eyes and they knew what was at stake.
While the team battled for the meet title, one athlete was proving why he's one of the best in Texas. Payton isn't just a key part of Greenwood's dominant mile relay. He's also one of the fastest hurdlers in 4A.
Being ranked in both the 300 hurdles and the mile relay means a lot because it just means all the work we've been putting in has really mattered and translated to what rank we are. Both these races help build endurance for each other, and that's the key to competing at a high level and really getting where we are.
So, Payton, he's a great leader on our team. He's a stud of an athlete. I've been watching him run hurdles since, we were in the 7th grade, and, every year he's gotten better. He's improving every year, every meet. And, it's just so fun to watch him. Right now he's second in the state in hurdles, Even though he didn't come out with first last year in the state meet, he has something to prove this year, and I just can't wait to watch him.
Dylan knows the rankings mean nothing without results. To become number one, he knows exactly what it will take.
I'll have to run a PR, but it depends on what the other times are, but my main objective is to just run well and go to state again.
Dylan pushes all of us, and he's a big leader and makes us, compete and give it our absolute best, and even more than that, and he strives to make us good competitors and great teammate. You see him give it all in every single race that he goes out there and runs, and makes you want to just go out and compete and give it everything you have.
Dylan Payton he's an exceptional young man. He's an exceptional athlete, and he's a student of the things that he does. I don't know anybody that pushes himself harder and has better virtue and character than Dylan, and so he uses all of those qualities about himself to make himself better, and he fine-tunes himself every week, and he works hard, and he never complains, and Dylan is not only is he gifted, but he's just an outstanding person to coach.
He's got another level of focus, he knows exactly what he needs to do, and he's not letting anything stop him.
Winning meets isn't just about what happens on the track. Every point matters. And Greenwood has a game changer in the field. Jayden Colvert isn't just another thrower. He's one of the best in Texas 4A, the top-ranked discus thrower in the classification, and a top 5 shot putter on top of that, and he's not done yet.
Being ranked 1st or 5th doesn't mean anything to me until I'm holding gold medals in Austin. That's what really matters. I'm not here to be ranked, I'm here to win.
So, you know, in track meets, people see the times and they see how fast people are, you know, but the most important thing when you're trying to win an entire track meet is points. And so you can't discount how important the field events are. And so in that, you know, Jayden Colvert is an extremely important weapon for us because, you know, he's a dominant force in discus and shot, and he gets better every week. You know, and the hope would be that he will continue to get better every week and that he'll peak at the right time. But, you know, Jayden gives us a weapon that is really important for us week in and week out.
It's taken a lot. 5 years of work and a disappointing sophomore season, that's what's driving me now.
You know, when Jayden steps in the ring, you know we're going to get some points, and, you know, that's just a great boost for the team.
You know, Jayden Colvert's one of those guys that, you know, you always want on your side. You know, he's a beast, he's a competitor, he's driven to anything he does. You know, that guy puts in the work, and, you know, it shows, and I'm just so happy to have him, you know, on my track team, also on offensive line.
My goal is school records in both. I've got a lot more in the tank that a lot of people haven't seen, and I plan on surprising a lot of people.
If there's one guy you don't bet against, it's Jayden Colvert. He's built for doing stuff like this.
With only one race left, the Rangers needed a statement performance. Greenwood trailed Liberty by 7 points. The meet was going to be decided in the last 4 laps.
Every step, every exchange, we knew it had to be flawless and perfect.
Well, we were going into the last race, and, you know, we knew that the meet was going to come down to that and who could win and who could do the best. And the great thing about that is that's something that championship teams are made of. You know, they find out, you know, they know their limits. They know that, you know, that they have to cross those limits and get over boundaries, and they have to run faster and make things happen. And so we knew going into that race that that's what we had to do, and I put pressure on the kids to do that, and they answered.
We knew exactly what had to happen. You know, we had one shot to finish this the right way.
You know, going into that 4x4 race, you know, losing's never something that we have on our mind. You know, it's always we're getting better, we're chasing our own time. And so, you know, we knew that what we had to do, and we knew what we needed to do to pull it off, and we did that, so I'm happy about that.
These are the situations that we train for. These are the ones that we think about. These are the situations that we honestly dream about being in. These are the situations that make champions. And so, you know, as an athlete, you know, you want to have the ball at the end of the game, right? You want to have the baton with the meat on the line. And so those are the things that these guys, they desire for those things to happen. And so with them to have that, you know, thrust upon them in this meet, and for them to respond the way they did, that was, you know, really great.
The Rangers didn't just win, they dominated. A 3:23.37, 7 seconds ahead of the second place Seminole. Liberty couldn't keep up, and just like that, the title was in Greenwood's hands. But while the win was impressive, the time wasn't the season best. Greenwood's 3:21.94 from earlier in the season was the fastest in 4A, and they know exactly what they need to do.
You know, we were happy to win. The goal's always to win.
We know we need to improve and get faster, and we need to come out here and put hard work and dedication into getting faster.
You know, moving forward, we're just going to keep pushing, keep competing. You know, moving forward, we have bigger goals, and we can't wait to achieve those goals.
To stay in the fight, Rangers have to run at 3:19 or better. If they want to be on target for state, they need to keep dropping seconds, and that only happens with work.
You know, winning a meet the way we did, it's amazing, and it's fun, and it's good for everybody, and it builds confidence. But we know that we still have to get a lot faster.
What's next? The same thing we do every week. Put in work, get better. That's the standard.
We have a simple goal is to just get better every week. When the time comes, be ready to win.
You know, every practice, every meet, every second we drop, you know, it's all leading to state, and we have to be ready for it.
But this isn't just about one meet. It's about the long road ahead, about pushing past limits, about leaving nothing behind. The Rangers aren't chasing times, they're chasing something bigger. And if you're not ready to run through the pain, you'll get left behind.